And there's a place that I've dreamed of, where I can free my mind. I hear the sounds of the season and lose all sense of time. Feels like we're in a dream, you know what I mean.
Right there, Camp McIntosh.
Absolutely. Hopefully we will see you and many, many more in 2026. September, it's going to be yet another great weekend. Well, week actually. We've extended it a little bit longer, so it's more than just the weekend. So if you want to join us from the Wednesday on, please, by all means, make sure you reach out to Tracy and Andre. And I'll tell you, this has been a good year so far. I have to admit. Horwood is book solid, and we will see everybody in August. Thanks so much for all that have signed up, as well as Camp Mac. We are 5 beds away from being completely full, which is a good position to be in right now this time of year. So we want to thank all of our CFNers for stepping up to the plate, and with the help of another CFNer, we're going to make it worth your while. Not to mention all the wonderful prizes and gift packs that are made available at the retreats, but we also have a special prize that is only available to those who come to a CFN retreat. So lots of information still to come in regards to that. But if you haven't booked in Horwood and you want to be a part of the party, we'd love to see you at Camp Mac. So by all means, reach out to Andre and Tracy, and hopefully we will see your butt booked in a bed. Who have we got with us tonight? There's Brad in the house. How you doing, Brad? Evening, CFNer. Steve's in the house. How you doing, Steve? Tony's here as well. Bob, nice to see you, buddy. You know what? Ottawa's just around the corner. Hopefully we'll see you there. Jim's with us as well. Yeah, baby. What's going on, Fernando? Always a pleasure to have you, my friend. Always a pleasure. James Shembry, got a bite. Yes, sir. Does anyone have a good recipe for groundhog? No, but I got some old socks you can use as stuffings if you're in the mood. How you doing, Steve? Nice to have you along with us as always. And a big congratulations to the Shaw family. Don, you're a trooper. But our beloved Don rang the bell last week. And tip of the hat and a big virtual kiss to our beloved Don. For going to task with that dreaded C word. You showed who's boss. I know it took a lot out of you, but you're one tough gal, and our hearts and thoughts are out with you. And so glad that as a family, you were able to witness and share the bell ringing session with all of us. Truly appreciate that. Joe's in the house. How you doing? Pete LeDuc, how you doing, my friend? Good evening, ice fishing, but busy riding. Yeah, I bet you've been riding the snow bug. Lots of snow. No shortage of snow, I'll tell you. Gary's in the house with us as well. Sonia, great segue. You did qualify. So we can officially now say that it is a launched giveaway now that Sonia has qualified. But we had two more entries. So I just wanted, this is a great segue. Some great prize packs available from Ugly Boys, from Adrian's, Shimano, and Pal Castings. There's some great prizes available from our community, from our Made in Canada vendors. And as it is right now, we had 2 people sign up just before the weekend, Sonia being one of them. So it's going to extend for another week. So we will make the post on Thursday. If we don't see anything Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, next Monday, we will be giving away the prize pack for the first fish in 2026. So we will have probably a new video associated with all the names that have already verified. So if you aren't one of them and you haven't caught a fish yet, you might have a week to do it, maybe more. All depends on how many people still qualify. But as it is right now, we had 2 people qualify last week, so it is extended one more week. So looking forward to having more. I think there's close to 40 people that have qualified already. So if you are heading out this week, by all means, do not forget to make sure that you post your catch in the comments so that you can qualify. Adrian, how you doing, my friend? Kale's in the house. Always a pleasure having all you CFNers on a Monday, as it always is. This is Monday Night Live, and we are truly blessed in honor to have all of you with us and all of you who watch throughout the course of the week to stay engaged, stay in the know. As I said, my beloved panel, which is Big Jim, Lawrence, and of course, Jay Barnucz. They bring you a wealth of information, and we're so lucky to have them. So let me get to the announcements, and so we can get to our beloved panel. Speaking of other events, something that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention, these folks, let's go fishing, boys. And there are some girls that join as well, but it's a cool little segue, cool little group. Mikey McRae is the one that's spearheading this. They have their 5th annual ice camping trip on Lake Joseph. It's a cool little 2-day event that goes on. They have some great prizes, and you can see G-Bay Tackle, Get Fishing, and Hot Box Huts have stepped up in and helped out in a big way, as well as our beloved CFN Made in Canada vendors as well. Nice little prize pack that we handed over. So they're going to have a great time. If you are interested, Mikey made it very, very clear to me. We are always looking for new people. We're always looking for more people. So if you are interested, hopefully there's some information there. If not, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with Mikey McRae. And it's a great overnight, great opportunity, and it's a lot of fun. They're a pretty entertaining group. So we're lucky to have them help us out, promote our community as well as pump our tires. But for doing so, we gave them a prize pack in return. So we're hoping they have a grandiose weekend. Speaking of upcoming events too, our beloved CFN chapter is CFN Saskatchewan chapter is having yet another ice jam. It is February 14th to the 16th, which is Family Day weekend. It is on Pask Lake in Saskatchewan. Should be, based on who's going so far, we've got 13 going, 31 interested. Some prize packs are on the way to our good buddy Walter, who's hosting this and sort of spearheading this event. I know Rob Alspatch and a few others like Lloyd have helped out as well. But Walter and the Huck family certainly spearhead this every time it happens. So we are so lucky. And we're looking forward to seeing what kind of fun, what kind of trouble, what kind of interesting takeaways come from this event this year up on Pask Lake in Saskatchewan. But we look forward to seeing all of the memories that are going to be shared with our community throughout some of the many postings that I'm sure Walter and Taylor are going to take the time and to share with the community. So looking forward to that. February 14th to the 16th, they're going to be out on the ice catching some of Saskatchewan's gold. At least let's hope so for sure. That's probably it for me when it comes to announcements. Randy, nice to have you along, my friend. I'd like some details. Sure, my friend. Absolutely. Reach out to me after, and I will certainly help you with whatever you need, my friend. Kale's in the house as well. Always a pleasure to have you guys along. Well, you know what? Without further ado, let's get right to our panel because we have lots to discuss, lots to talk about, and I've got some learning to do. So I can't think of anybody else better to learn us a few things but our good buddy, Big Jim McLaughlin, coming up right after this.
When he was born, he tried to reel in the umbilical cord. Bass named him as their personal best. His power pole came with a stripper. Forward-facing sonar uses him to find fish. Chuck Norris is his co-angler. He is the most interesting fisherman in the world. Stay fishing, my friends.
Yes, indeed, the one and only Big Jim McLaughlin. How you doing, sir?
Good. I'm feeling older today.
And you know, would it happen to be a birthday that you celebrated recently?
Yeah, we had a good time on the weekend here. Had about half a dozen of the grandkids here in the end there. I guess a couple of them decided they'd rather fiddle with phones and their buddies than be here. So it's what it is. They're busy finding their way, and it's all good.
Well, you know what? It is our youth of today. They are easily distracted, but I can say, Jim, if you need someone to come give you a hug, sing a birthday song or three, we got some CFNers here that would gladly step up for that opportunity.
This isn't funny.
Well, we're trying not to laugh, Jim, and we're laughing with you, not at you. I promise you that, my friend. Promise you that. Just fishing with Big Jim, yes, it is. And you know what? What we're here for is a wealth of knowledge, and of course, a lot of stuff that you have learned along the way. Jim, there's a video that I was able to download, and you had sent it to me, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, isn't that cool?
Well, like it is, and you've talked about this at great length. I'm going to give you the opportunity now to talk. What is it about this style of presentation that drives fish crazy?
I've, as you've heard me say a million times, I'm bigger on this than I ever was on just this stuff. Eh?
Yeah,
And it's too obvious that it's not just me. It's not a secret. It never was. It just worked. It's what it was. And when you see what they've come up with now, like this is just absolutely incredible. Eh?
well, you know, and for someone like myself who has never really seen the benefits of this style of presentation, I've watched you get really excited when I'm around about this presentation, and I'm eager to try it myself, simply because I've seen how hyped you get about it.
Yeah, what it does.
There's something to it.
I mean, like, yeah, like the world minnow. It's this, and
Yeah.
the flash, like the flash boost on the side.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason. That's the reason why those things, tend to work as good as they do. It's like having two more. It's not just this. It's that when it does that, it's got that on the side of it. And I'm not I'm not that big on color. If I'm fishing open water like that, I'm using something that looks like a bait fish.
Yeah.
There's so many other things out there, right? And like it just looks real. It just looks like fish.
And like you're suggesting, is it a wounded bait fish that it's
yeah, like
mimicking?
I don't think bass don't pike. There's no game fish sitting around in the lake going, I wish somebody would hurry up and get wounded today so I can go get something to eat. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
They eat whatever's out there, but something that's just a little different. I'm sure that if there's a bunch of fish swimming along together, minnows and ones doing a spaz like this because it's not right or whatever.
Right.
Like that's the one that's going to get targeted because they see it. It's just it stands out. But who knows, eh? But I just know that this, and I've often believed that it was because of the flash. It reflects off both sides, so it's reflecting through the whole water column at the same. Goes here, goes shallow, goes deep with the, and then when it goes the other way, it's the opposite. And I've always had something about that. I used to get crankbaits, and I would sit in the boat. I'd get the seat up at the front, and I would sit, and I would have a box, and I would try them and try to see which ones did this. And some of them even did it more. And people often talk about how Ricky Clun on the bottom of his crankbaits, there would be colored marks. There would be dots of red nail polish, just minute little dots. And if it had 3 dots on it, it never went in the water unless you were having a tough time in a tournament, and because you didn't want to get bit off or lose it or something.
Yeah.
And I started doing that, and I had baits. Bill Chambers still has that one that I gave him. And it's just there's lures that catch fish, and there's lures that catch more fish.
Makes sense.
That's that right there. I have a list of things here, and I want to try that. I want to get that head and see what whatever plastics I choose to fish with.
Well, I will say
I
this.
had a buddy that had some stuff like that, and he put on the what's the one from Crush City? They have one with a little tail. I don't know the name of it, but he used those. And I know I have some here. So they're probably up on the pegboard in the back. I know I have some somewhere, but he used those, and he said that it was this all over. It really, really worked.
So there you go.
But that's not just for smallmouth and open water. I mean, you think a walleye's not going to eat that?
Oh, 100%.
Anything sees that.
100%.
Yep.
100%. Speaking of catching fish,
those, there's a little screw, and there's also another little piece at the back that it attaches onto to hold it in place.
Gotcha.
it
I
doesn't
wondered
fall
how
down.
it all sort of went together, but makes sense. And of course, a lot of great stuff that's being sent back for all of us, inquisitive minds that want to know how the elites are doing and how some of the competitions are going down in the south with this deep freeze. Jim, I got to ask, I'm not sure if you've ever been out fishing, when the lake freezes over like it does and you're targeting bass, because of course we have seasons up here and it's different for us, but down there in the south, you see them, they're breaking ice. Jeff Gussie unfortunately went down the ramp all the way to the water, slipping on ice. They are dealing with some incredible elements, and
He almost lost the boat and truck. Eh?
we saw that. He shared that with us.
Yeah. Yeah, he said he was a
Unreal.
little bit worried at one point.
Well, what are they doing? Because I've been seeing videos about some of the shad that aren't acting normally. The cold weather has got everybody
A lot of it's
screwed
killed
up.
them.
Got
Did you see
alligators.
the thing on the news about the guy he's out working on his lawn and he got hit by an iguana, fell out of a tree? And
Yes. Yeah.
What
Like
happened?
all of
I
these
just hit by an
problems
iguana.
are happening because of this cold weather. How are they possibly producing fish in these kind of elements?
And I'm thinking 99% of it they're jig fishing.
Wow.
They're jig fishing or a Texas rig, something like that, just
Yeah.
something compact down in a weed. Because you saw Gussie I don't know if you saw the video we did where he talks about it being frozen.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that must have been in the morning, a little bit of skim ice or something. And then he throws the jig up about 20 feet into the weeds toward the shore, and you hear ka-tink, 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 it goes bouncing across the ice.
It's crazy.
Arrowheads in the Ottawa River with this much ice on them in like the end of October, beginning of November. I've muskie fished where you had to back the boat with the trailer down, leave the straps on, and go 3 or 4 or 5 times to break the ice. I fished muskies in the Rideau River once where we launched, and when we came back, we had a hard time getting the boat into the slip to get out to go and get the truck, and we had to back the trailer down 5 or 6 times. And I thought we were screwed. So it froze during the day like this much. We must keep. That's back when we used to be tough, eh?
It's funny you say that because I was talking to somebody about that. I used to like the cold. I didn't mind it like I do now, but it's all about getting old. There's no doubt about that.
I'm not
but
as fussy about it as I used to be.
No, there's obviously a line in the sand for myself as well, and I'll do whatever I can not to get out in that minus 20 degree weather. I'll tell you. But with that being said, obviously they're down there. They're struggling to catch fish. They're struggling to find fish. I don't know what the tournament's going to look like starting this week. But needless to say, the pre-fishing has been anything but smooth. A smooth transition from where they've come from to where they're at. In fact, I'm sure there's a lot of folks that still think, "Are we still in Canada?" With it all being
well, that's they were talking about that was. How we're getting revenge on them down there, right?
Okay.
All down. They were showing, I forget what city it was in Florida, but just an out and out blizzard.
Yeah.
Snow just.
Did you see the ice in the water, the snow and whatever? Like, holy crap!
And
man.
North Carolina. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Like
6, 8
palm
inches.
trees at a 45-degree angle with like snow, a complete whiteout, and it shows just stand on his balcony, and he's like this, like he's looking around. He's got no idea where the stairs are, and it was just, it's just wild, eh? So
the only good thing that they can sleep well tonight knowing is that Mother Nature's going to burn that off and melt it very, very soon. We'll be
completed by the time the tournament's over.
Exactly.
Oh, give me another Gatorade. Drink that shit, you're gonna die.
I have to show this video too, Jim, because something that we talk about. We talk about pressured fish, how we need to downsize. I saw a video recently, and it was interesting because, of course, we can't do that in this country, but I sure wish we could, because I find videos like this fascinating. Now, and of course, this is an aquarium. This is a zander. This is not a walleye. This is a zander, and I'm going to assume that it's in Europe somewhere. But somebody has a predatory fish tank, and although it might be a zander, it is still part of the perch family, walleye family, whichever way you want to look at it. Look at the size of bait fish that it devours. we talk about downsizing. Now, I don't think there's any more pressure in a situation like this from a fish's perspective than it is right now, and yet it's eating something that's quite large.
Yeah, probably at the very end of what it would eat size wise.
And you could say, well, maybe it hasn't eaten in a while. Maybe it's just super, super hungry. It didn't matter, this, that, and everything else. But we always talk about downsizing when fish are pressured. What's the reasoning behind that, Jim, in your eyes and your
It just seemed to work. It seemed to work.
great
Eh?
answer?
You could always see at a tournament the guy that would win. He's never won a tournament. He hardly ever cashes a check. All of a sudden, he comes to the scales. He weighs in a giant bag 2 days in a row, and they ask him what he's fishing with, and he'd show a little weenie flipping jig. And I've had a couple of instances myself where I did it and did well. It's not necessarily win, but way better than anticipated. And
Right.
it's because you made the change.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, adapting.
Yeah.
Also, you need to know a thing or two, and you're the guy that I'm going to lean on when it comes to this. So our good buddy Brad from Pow Castings came across quite a bit of these, and I was wondering if you might know what these are.
Yeah,
This-
I've been watching that. I've seen those. I sent a message to Bill Chambers. I don't know whether he's looked at it yet.
Okay.
I have never heard of Aqua Tackle, but Lucky Strike has stuff that is exactly the same as this. Exactly the same. So I'm sure it was all came about at the same time, but
Okay.
that is one that I have never heard of.
Well, there you go. I mean, even back then, people were robbing others' ideas because Lucky Strike. I'm not sure who came first when it came to the swimming dolphin, as this bait is called.
Yeah.
I would assume that's more of a trout bait. Jim, would I be wrong to assume?
Back
that?
then, probably some kind of a trout spoon. They show bass and everything at the top, pike, whatever, but it's just another spoon. But yeah, no, there's definitely stuff around that is virtually the exact same shape.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you look, there was Hex. There was, what were the ones that were out of Cornwall? I forget the name of them now. I'm having a senior citizen moment. But I mean, that operation in Cornwall down there in Ingleside, and there was several of these type of bait companies, the 12 lures on a card. There's so many other things out there. I've got, let me here, I'll show you something. I got these. Hang on.
Wow. 3 pound smallmouth. Wow.
Here's another company that was just from the other side of the river called Thomas Spinning Lures.
Okay.
Some guy traded me these like about 5 years ago, and it was that same type of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
You recognize that?
Yeah.
What is it? A Flash King, or I think it was called
Copper, and I remember the old man. He would drag that around the lake looking for lake trout. That was a big lake trout.
Yeah,
back in the
it's
day.
the same old thing. I traded them. I think I traded them a rod for a box of them. I'll probably find out each one worth $1,000 or something.
He came across a bunch of these as well from the same company. To me, it's a great spoon.
The willow spoon.
Yeah, great spoon. It's great for, I would say, a number of species. I do remember this though. Like, I mean, when you would go to a restaurant down in the south, or even up north for that matter, you would see these by the cache. Whether it was a tackle store, it was a diner's, like a mom and pop type diner place. You'd always see these at the cache as a quick buy, like a impulse type buy. But yeah, he's got loads of these. So if anybody's interested in getting their hands on some swimming dolphins in any of these spoons, the entire card is going to be available at Pow Castings. So come down, see Brad and I this weekend at the Spring Fishing and Boat Show, and we will make sure that we send you on your way with 1 or 2 of these.
I just looked
cool.
at Hex Baits, and they were in Brockville.
Interesting.
Now they made all the spoons, but they also made wooden stuff too, which was the old creek chub time and all that stuff. That came out of Ontario Lures.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's that big hex. Anything else in here? No, that's all it was up about that. But the St. Lawrence was littered with little bait companies. Littered. It was absolutely nuts. And the guy told me that when they shut the place down, the last couple of days that they were there, the people there knew they weren't getting paid. And that's where all these lures came from. They just backed their pickup trucks up, filled it up with big master cartons of spoons. Away they went. So
Incredible.
yeah, and they were for sale. You could go to Ingleside or any place down there toward Morrisburg and that, and you'd go in a corner store, and there'd be like 50 cards of those on the wall, like 49 cents each.
I remember that. I remember specifically, if I'm not mistaken, I remember going in to get my hair cut somewhere, and it was again at the cache, fishing lures. It was the oddest thing, but something that was regular. I used to see them all over the place, those cards. And I remember seeing the Lucky Strike one. I don't know if they were Aquas or if they were Lucky Strike, but even Williams had cards like that. It was quite popular back in the day. Pete's, he just wanted you to know you're invited to come over to see his museum of tackle. He's got a few.
Well, it's like $600 a day for me to travel. I'm going to need fuel, a hotel, and I'm going to need an escort around the museum that's way better looking than you, Pete.
Oh, wow. Oh,
you got to his house and saw all the stuff.
I did, right? And I saw dude, you could have sat there for days. Yeah. The stories, the trinkets, the keepsakes, stuff that you've never seen before.
I know. He sent me pictures, and I find myself, looking at them and expanding them to look at sometimes and whatever. All the amount of stuff. It's really cool. No, Pete's into that, but I think he's into skidoos more, old skidoos.
I think they're both right up there.
He was sending me some notes about that. He's all excited. He worked on one today. I think it was. He said, I just had a brief time to run through there. But he's he's his interest. He has his interest, and he's big on them.
No kidding. 100%.
He's big on them. Yeah.
I agree, Richard. They do kind of look like the Cleos. They're not as long. The Cleos are a little bit more
stout. Cleos are rounder, thicker in the middle. Yeah,
they're a little more stout. But yes, the bell part of it certainly had distinctive markings that would be similar to that of a little Cleo. Just a winter hobby, yeah. Just one of the many hobbies that Pete has. With this being show season, I know this is your time to shine. Things are going to be maybe a little bit different for you, but looking forward to the Ottawa show nonetheless. Yeah. And for all those who are going to be coming down and visiting not only Big Jim, but of course our buddy Steve, myself, and a host of other CFNers that are going to be down giving us a hand as well. Look forward to seeing you, and make sure you stop in and say hello, because if you wear something that has CFN on it, we're going to make sure that you have a sticker to take home with you. So all you got to do is show up to the kids' pond with some CFN swag, just like Jim's got on, and we're going to send you home.
Does this one have it on the back?
It sure does, buddy.
Ouch. My shoulder's done. I just blew my rotator.
So what else? What else have you got going on, Jim? Now that you've got things are a little bit different this year for you. And,
I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. And as you said there, I've been perusing the want ads. It's really nice to see the support that I've gotten about it, and it's one of those things. Like I said to you before, buddy, I don't want anybody phoning Shimano and saying, hey, you shouldn't have dumped Big Jim. You should work with him and whatever, and find a way to make it work. But that wasn't really dumped. You know what I mean? There was a line that didn't have anything in it, and that means it doesn't work. You can't. I can't do what I do if I'm not being paid for it in money, and that's it's the way it worked. But I don't want anybody phoning up Shimano and causing trouble. I've had a few guys come to me and say, I'm going to phone. That's not what it's all about. It's what it is. No. It's over and done, and it'll a year from now, it'll just be another one of those things in life. So I don't even think it'll take a year.
Well, it might take a year for everybody to sort of find out, because I do know that not everybody knows.
Oh, they know now.
They,
It's really got I'm on the weekend. I must have got 20 phone calls, literally. Yeah. Well, remember when I was talking to you when I was driving home from Cornwall? I had phone calls. I had three or four just in when we talked for a half hour.
Mm-hmm.
I had three or four phone calls from that, and
wow.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, you've certainly, it was a legacy and a half. Not too many people would last that long with a wife.
I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, and to be there for 40 plus years, to do what you're doing for as long as you did, certainly a testament to you, but also how you've dealt with it and how you're handling it is also the professionalism that we've grown to love when it comes to you. Because you could be upset, you could be, there's a whole host of feelings that you could certainly have right now, but you're dealing with it, and it's all sort of falling in check. And again, it's just you're an admiring guy just based on how you conduct yourself.
It's another thing.
Oh, Pete's gonna call Shimano. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's all we need. Now we're doomed. We're all doomed.
Nah, it's all good, Pete. It's all good.
With that, Jim, as I said, our time with you always seems to fly by.
Every week you give me 3 minutes less time.
I'd have you on here all night if I could.
And I'd be here for you, buddy. Hey, look over my shoulder.
I'm never gonna forget that.
Yeah, you know where it's going.
So you keep telling me.
Someday that will hang on the wall in your house, buddy.
It'll be an honor. It'll be
that ain't going in the box with me. No. That's what I told everybody. Says, "Oh, when you die, what are you going to have them put in the coffin with you?" I said, "Nothing. Why would I put anything in the coffin? Give it all to people. Let them have it. I'm not going to use it."
Yeah.
So,
still,
it's not like I'm going to drill a hole and cast a line out of the. Oh, Jesus, dirt here. It doesn't. It's not like that.
Well, let's just say this, Jim. I thought I'd never see the day that you wouldn't be touting Shimano. Let's hope that as much of a shock as it's been, let's hope that instant and that event happens but a few years down the road. We're certainly, none of us are ready for that, my friend. So knock on wood, let's hope and pray that doesn't happen anytime soon.
Okay, everybody, have a good night. Be safe if you hit the ice, as always. And we will chat to you soon. I'll say this, Scotty, it's kind of tough for me being the second best looking guy on here tonight. It's kind of tough.
Well, he must be talking to you, Lawrence, because he ain't talking to me. You take care, pal.
Be good, people. Good night, Pete Leduc.
Yes, sir. We've got Lawrence coming up right after this. There is the one and only Lawrence Gunther. How you doing tonight, Lawrence?
Good, man. How are you?
Oh, living the dream, as they always say, living the dream.
Nice.
I do have to ask, and I know you're busy. I know there's lots of things that are going on in Bluefish Canada, but something that I watched, and I was intrigued to watch it only because I thought of you immediately. But the buy-in, they had basically a town hall meeting out in BC in regards to recreational fishing when it comes to salmon and
Yeah.
everything that we have talked about at great length. And I will say this, if we had a small part in corralling this group of people to this event and allowing them to have the look, you can't, I apologize, you can't see this, but that room is loaded with people. There's got to be 200-300 people in this room. And we have little snippets. I wasn't going to bother sharing them because, and I don't mean to be negative, but in a lot of cases, we all know politicians, they rehearse their answers and they were all well crafted. I don't think we really got a lot of answers when it came to this town hall. They certainly shared a lot of information and a lot of concerns, but there is a site there that if you are interested in making sure that your voice is heard, even if you don't live in BC, it doesn't matter. Like, it's all fishing and we're all Canadians, and this affects us as much as it does anybody else. There are our BC counterparts, I should say. But yeah, get involved, have an opinion, because, at the end of the day, this could be walleye in the Bay of Quinte. This could be perch in Lake Erie. This could be any species of fish anywhere across Canada. And I think if we step up and at least have our voices heard, whether it's in BC, out east, up north, it doesn't matter. I think as anglers, we have to have a unified voice, and this is a great call to order.
Yeah, it is. And, this is probably one of the biggest threats to recreational fishing in Canada in the last 5 years. It's big. I mean, you saw the assaults on striped bass fishing and smallmouth on the East Coast by the salmon lobby, to have them all poisoned and taken out or caught commercially.
Yeah.
And you see things going on in the Great Lakes, on the St. Lawrence River, with the one of the last remaining watersheds on the upper St. Lawrence River being proposed for destruction to put in a giant Coast Guard station on the American side. And I'll give you a little bit more information about that on where we are with that right now. But this is epic, and the British Columbia Recreational Fishing Association have been working hard. This is not their first town hall, but it's definitely their biggest. But they're really getting good at pushing out the news and the issues and writing very thoughtful position papers that detail the issues. And they're all on their websites. You can access all that stuff on their Facebook pages and websites. It's all easy to find. But it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. So much so there's a delegation. They've raised almost $20,000 from the Pacific Salmon Alliance in Pacific Fishing Alliance to come down to Ottawa on February 8th for 4 days of meetings on Parliament Hill. There's 7 of them coming. We'll be covering that pretty closely. Through Bluefish Radio, we're going to talk to them about, before their meetings, after their meetings, and find out how it all went down, what their hopes are, and what the results achieved are. And, it's epic because there's a whole bunch of issues at play, Scotty.
Oh, and you see it. And a lot of the snippets, a lot of sort of the discussions that were had that were able to be recorded. I'm not sure what the stipulations were at that town hall, if folks were allowed to tape or record or any of that, but there were some little news snippets, some great information that was shared, and you are 100% right. There is a lot of discussion, and it's not just one topic or two. There's quite a few at play here, and I'm going to be interested. I think as anglers, we should all be keeping a close eye on what happens out here, because I don't believe that we've seen this level of discussion anywhere else.
And look, they're pretty frank about the different interests in the salmon, in terms of the resident killer whales, in terms of First Nations, food, ceremonial, and social, their fishery, in terms of the commercial long line net fishery, in terms of their commercial indigenous fishery. There's a bunch of stakeholders who have an interest in the salmon, and there's the amount of salmon, who gets the salmon, and so they've decided. The government decided after a very short consultation period over Christmas that this very small amount, I think it's around 5% of the Chinook salmon, are allocated to the recreational fishery. And they make about, each fish is worth about $700 if it's caught recreationally, and it's only worth about $8 if it's caught commercially. But they're taking that 5% in southern BC and they're reallocating it to the commercial fishery. And they're pointing out, look, the commercial fishery, the government's been collapsing the commercial fishery for years, buying out the licenses, buying out their boats, and just whittling it down. And then at the same time, passing on those boats and passing on those licenses to the indigenous commercial fishery. And so now, because, the recreational fishers are saying, hey, don't take our recreational quota away, our small quota away, and the First Nations people are saying, well, don't get us involved because, just because it's going to be given to the commercial fishery, it's not our problem. That's DFOs making those decisions. So they're getting, their elbows up. And there's a whole bunch of interest and a whole bunch of people talking now. It's quite extraordinary. And why are they taking their quota away? Well, it's because they're going to take away their right to go fishing, right? It used to be, we'll close it from April to mid-August and open it for 4 weeks and then close it again. And they would make these decisions every year, and it was always moving around. It was a moving target and moving dates. And now DFO is saying, you know what, we're just going to close it until we know otherwise, until we think we can open it again and at some foreseen future date.
Well, and at the end of the day, it could potentially come down to that. And I think that's why I'm so emphatic to make sure that folks get involved in some way, shape, or form. If you want to sign up on the website, by all means do that. Have a voice, have some say, because it might be salmon in BC. It might be perch in Lake Erie. It could be striped bass out east, and lobster. I mean, there's no end to where this could go. And I think, it's funny. I think Richard may have mentioned this. Yeah, it was. The federal government doesn't own the fish. And that might be the case. But it's certainly not how I feel, or it's certainly not how they're presenting their point, I should say.
Well, there was a decision in 1999 when they last set the sharing of the Chinook and the coho salmon on the West Coast between all these different interest groups. There was a statement in there, and it sort of said fish belong to the people, all the people. Mm-hmm. And now there's been pressure to take that out, because they said, well, the indigenous community feels that that's colonialism. That's sort of like crown land. It's like, you're just taking what belonged to nobody or everybody and saying it now belongs to the Queen of England or something, or the King of England or whatever. They said, it's we don't like that. And the anglings are saying, the angling associations are saying, well, hang on, if we don't even have a recognized right to the fish, then we got nothing. Then we're really at the mercy of the people who are calling the shots, and they're worried.
Well, I can believe it. I'm worried. That's and let's face it, we have every right to be, because when you see the crowd that was there, let's be honest, that is quite a crowd. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people in that room.
A lot of passion. A lot of people with, who have bits of information too, right? And people are willing to share their bits of information, and you got to sort through it. And, not everyone's checking their facts when they go up to the microphone either. So, but people hear things, they talk, maybe they repeat things, and it gets a little bit skewed over being repeated, ring around the rosy kind of stuff. So you got to take it all a little bit with a grain of salt and sort through it. But it doesn't mean you can dismiss it all as fake news or conspiracy theory. Right. They're rightfully concerned. And the basic issues are well documented. So, about the reallocation of the quota, about the proposed indefinite closures, those are well documented in government papers. So those aren't conspiracy theories.
Now, and again, I have been part of the audience and a spectator for only a short period of time. I haven't been around long enough to know exactly the timeline of what's gone out in BC. But would it be fair for me to say that there seems to be more public consultation now than ever before when it comes to the BC fishery, or am I wrong?
The consultations are over. The consultations are over. They were very short. They were very brief. And in some cases, they were just, here's our paper. Send us your comments. You got 2 weeks, and it was like over from December 15th to the 30th. They extended it for an extra week or so because they say, people point out, hey, you're asking us to, put Christmas aside and do consultations on your paper. Like, what's that all about? What's that's just doesn't seem fair. So they were called on that. But those consultations are finished on the, no one's signed off on anything yet, but the consultation parts are done on a lot of the stuff. So what now is needed is senior management, ministers have to make some tough decisions. And it looks like they haven't made those decisions yet. And maybe there's a bit of a pause, and there's some hope that the new leadership in Ottawa under Carney is putting a little pause on all this. Some people told me that if this was the Trudeau government, it would all been signed and delivered months ago. But that's not the case. So there's some hope that there might be an opportunity to still, have their concerns heard and addressed. And they're not asking, for everything to be tilted in their favor, but they are asking that the industry not be killed off. The whole recreational fishing industry, the $1.1 billion, industry with the 7,000 jobs, that it not just be shut down in the southern BC area.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people's livelihood at stake here, and I'm not just talking those who, make a living through aquaculture, running a lodge, charters, fish, commercial fishing. There's a lot of, I guess, avenues through which people make a living through salmon and the fishery out in BC and really across Canada for that matter. But interesting because it's been very well promoted, and obviously it's what they wanted us to see was the abundance of consultation. But you're saying that it's all done now, and they're going to come up and formulate a finding, I'm assuming, or some kind of strategy going forward.
Well, the government, talks to some people and they formulate a plan. It's a draft plan. They put it out there for consultation because that's what they have to do.
Gotcha.
It's usually 30 days, and then once they hear what people have to say, then they go back and think about it. Mm-hmm. And they make adjustments where needed based on what they heard. That's where we are. Yeah.
Well, I know they've had you, sort of weigh in and have your opinion and have your voice heard, which is encouraging. Well, and there's others too. Yeah,
I'm just a spokesperson. I'm just a voice. One more voice. That's all. I hear, I listen, I talk to these people, I read their reports, and I check and I say, is this right? Is this what I'm hearing? Is this what I'm hearing? And I just try to amplify that voice. The Canadian Sport Fishing Industry Association breakfast is going to be this Friday morning, and I'll have an opportunity to bring it up in front of the group there as well, right? That this is something everyone needs to be aware of and engaging in, and supporting the recreational fishery out there, the marine recreational fishery out there.
We all do. Absolutely. Yeah. There's not a facet through which our passion doesn't somehow touch some part of angling and the angling community at large. So no, 100%. We definitely have to keep a close eye on it. And if you are interested, there is a website at the bottom of this post. Please make sure that you do your best, even if you just want to log on and see what it's all about. I highly recommend it, simply because, as I said, this is an opportunity as an angler or a hunter, for that matter, to preserve our way of life and something that we enjoy and in some cases lean on and need and require to make a living. So yeah, lots at stake here, lots at play. And again, hopefully we get it right, because it's people are worried. They're calling it the 11th hour. Wow. Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully a good decision's made at the 11th hour. I know lots of good ones have been, so let's hopefully they keep that streak alive. One other thing that is starting to gain a lot of traction, not that it needed to, or it wasn't on the top of people's minds, but seals, the population of seals.
Oh yeah, they're always back in the news, aren't they?
Well, in a big way, big way. That article that got shared to me by Richard, I shared to you as well.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about it, Richard, and I want to thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. Yeah, it was interesting.
There were a lot of pieces.
Who was that individual? Who was that in the video talking, or the audio?
Great question. You know what? Give me 2 seconds, and let's see.
You seem to know what he's talking about. It seemed to be pretty.
Well, and this is the thing. There was some,
I think, though, eh? It was American guy, because he's talking about the NOAA and the research they're doing down there, and the impact on the West Coast fishery, for the American anglers on the West Coast.
I believe you are exactly right. I think that's exactly what it was. I'm looking it up here now to see if I can get a name, but. As much as we wanted to discuss it, and I did share it with you pretty much right after I got sent to it by Richard. But yes, it's badger fishing, and I don't know what the gentleman's name is.
Yeah,
but it's badger fishing, and it's in Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
Not 100% sure what the gentleman's name is, but needless to say,
yeah.
He went on quite a rant. It was actually part 2 of 2 segments that he talks about it. Yeah. And their state right now is trying to prove the need for a cull.
Well, more intervention. And, he brought out some, he said there seems to be maybe, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They also have some say over the marine fishery.
Yeah.
And he's saying they've hired someone, and maybe they're not the most objective scientific organization. They're maybe pro seal to identify how much, salmon are in their stomachs, in the stomachs of these seals, what percentage of their diet is made up of salmon. And they're looking at salmon at these seals that are just swimming around out there in the ocean. And they're saying, it's not a lot. And he's saying, but what about the seals that are hanging out by the fish ladders? Those guys, that's all they eat is the salmon. When the salmon are running and piling up at the bottom of those fish ladders at that funnel, the seals are just waiting. They know that. They're just waiting there to intercept them, and they're running havoc on those. And those guys are eating huge, portions. And so he said, how do you get that looked after if you just do a big broad survey, if you're not going to pay attention to what's going on right here?
Well, and totally agree. There, to your point, there was a video that was shared, and I forget what river it was.
Mm-hmm. Columbia.
It could have been Canadian. Was it the Columbia?
Yeah.
Where the seals were swimming in the current.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever seen that. Not to say that it's out of the ordinary to see a seal do that.
Oh, they go far. They found seals up here in Ottawa, buddy. They've found seals up here in Ottawa.
Is that
right?
They
swam up the St. Lawrence River and up the Ottawa River and through the locks and around the dams. And they go far.
Well, they were in the rivers. And to your point, this is what I see is these seals, it's an easy meal. They'll just sit out in the river, sit in that current till, a bunch of salmon, and then they'll pick off what they can get. But the fact that they're in the rivers waiting for these fish now is, it's not good. Not a good feeling, especially when we keep coming on here and talking about the plight of BC salmon. Not good.
No, but I think this gentleman is he might be jumping a little bit, the gun, like you got to know the big picture. Right. And maybe NOAA is looking, okay, well, we know what's going on at those fish ladders and what's going on in the rest of the ocean. And, we've had research done on the East Coast Canada that came out not so long ago, maybe 6 months ago. And they found that, the seals on the East Coast, they're eating 20 times more salmon than are being caught commercially or recreationally by anglers and fishers. But, and then you think, well, 20 times more than what? Right? 20 times more than very little can still mean very little, right? 20 times more than 2 is, not that much more, right? But it's so you got to look at the big picture and statistics can be manipulated all sorts of different ways. So you gotta, I don't know. I mean, the point being on the East Coast study was the salmon out there, the seals out there, all 5.5 million of them are eating a lot of cod, a lot of cod.
Yeah.
And 20 times more than what's being caught by humans. Sounds like an impressive number, but it's still, they're eating a lot of cod.
Well, needless to say, yes, it is not a good look, and I don't know how sustainable it is. Let's hope that our fisheries on the east and west coast are able to sustain the take. But to your point, yeah, there's a lot of seals on the east coast and a whack of them on the west. And yes, we do have predators, but I don't believe that they're doing everything that we would hope to keep their numbers in check. And with that, unfortunately, puts our fisheries at risk. So it is certainly something to think about. I wouldn't want to break out, the bats with all the nails and get back to how it was back in the day by any means, but a controlled call. I think a controlled call at this stage is not a bad idea.
Yeah. In the United States is against the law to kill a seal.
Yeah.
I think on the west coast of Canada, it's against the law for anyone to kill a seal unless you're only Indigenous people are allowed to kill seal on the west coast, and in the Arctic as well. It's just the Indigenous people are allowed to kill seal, not non-Indigenous. And on the east coast of Canada, I don't think anyone is allowed to kill seals. And but I'm not sure if Indigenous people have a right to kill them or not, because they were still considered in peril or whatever at some point. We had a call for 100 years. I think in 1850, they introduced you could get, for every seal head or something like that, you could get a few bucks if you're a fisherman. Yeah, because even 150 years ago, they were saying the seals were eating the cod. But already, we knew then the cod was also in a bit of a decline at that point too, right? So people were saying, if the seals get them, we can't. So let's get the seals so we can get the cod. It's a bit of a race, and maybe we're calling the seals. It was a bit of an unfair advantage in that race when you do that, when you take your competition out like that. But maybe you just need to take your foot off the gas a little bit. Everyone needs to slow down, but yeah.
Well, and here's the question that I want to pose to you. So we have a reluctance to want to cull seals. Obviously, there's a legality perspective that I wasn't aware of. I didn't realize it was necessarily illegal, but okay. So you have that element. But we have anglers, whether they're recreational or commercial, going out and they are making a living on desecrating certain species of fish that people feel are having a negative effect on salmon populations.
I know,
that pike minnow, that fish is heavily targeted. And let's face it, there is an awful lot of them that are harvested each and every year, to the point where you have anglers that are actually making a living on the bounty, the bountiful bounty of these fish. So why is it okay with fish and not okay with salmon?
Well, I know people go out and put step ladders on their boats and get arrows, crossbows, and go shoot carp for fun.
Right.
And they're not even the Asian carp; they're just carp. We have different values for sure when it relates to different species. And, no one loved American eels, as an angler. No one liked to get an American eel on their line. That was always a cringy situation. But now they're down to less than 1% of what they used to be. And was it us killing them all? No, it wasn't us. It was the dam that's killing them all. But they used to count for as much as 50-60% of the biomass in Lake Ontario and the other Great Lakes was American eel. So, you think if that went back to, 50% of the swimming fishes in Lake Ontario were American eel again, what would we think about that, right? How would we feel about that? Our precious salmon and brown trout and lake trout and steelhead and smallmouth bass and walleye and muskie and pike, all the fish we love.
Yeah.
And we've got to be careful if we're going to throw rocks that we're not living in glass houses for sure.
Well,
Things change.
We cannot call seal, but we can do all of this bounty on other fish that we think are having,
Mhm.
or perhaps maybe the science has proven that they're having a negative effect. But we have no problem slaying fish, but
But what
we
would be
draw
the
the line
call
at
of
seals.
say if we had 5 million seals, we have 5.5 million seal on the East Coast, and to reduce the dent they're putting on, people think they're putting onto the cod population. What would that mean? Like you'd have to remove 1 million, 2 million,
I don't know.
2.5, half of them, maybe 3 million of them. What are you going to do with 3 million dead seals? And what's that going to look like? Not
True.
too many people will be happy about that.
True. No, definitely great arguments. As I said,
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. I don't have the answer. But when I speak of situation that I just did, where you have a bounty on fish, but we're not willing to do anything to eradicate some of the numbers of seals. I don't know.
Yeah. Look,
Kinda- it kinda
you
seems
could
pretty
you
hypocritical.
could you can be a vegetarian and eat fish, right?
Yeah, it's true.
You're a
True.
pescatarian, but it's just
Yeah.
like a little bit different than a vegetarian. So
Very true.
fish have their own unique value. It's bizarre. They're
Yeah.
animals, they're sentient, but they're regarded more, like a cob of corn or a beanstalk or something than it is, than a eagle, than they are that side of things.
Very true.
So it's something fish have never ranked high on our value system, unless you're talking like marlin and those kind of epic sort of big game fish, tarpon, now Chinook salmon maybe, but I think we should value all of life, and instead of picking and choosing which ones we will like and which ones we'll despise, we should value all of life because it's all part of the ecosystem, and just figure out how do we do this in a way that's humane. How do we do this in a way that doesn't involve genocide of a species?
Good point. Yep. Good point. No, as I said, this is a topic that hopefully will be spoken of at great length. That we're not done the consultation when it comes to that, because it is a problem that's not going away, and unfortunately, it's front and center. Everybody sees it. They see the nuisance that they've become. So it is definitely not a topic that's going to go away.
Well,
So
it's going to come back. When grass carp and other of these invasive carp get into the Great Lakes and start to flourish, oh boy, we're going to have some interesting conversations if and when that happens. And some people say it's when, not if, but
Well, we certainly appreciate you keeping us up to date with what's going on, and I know you're going to have your nose to the grindstone. But before we let you go, is there anything else that you wanted to mention that's upcoming this week in Lawrence Gunther Outdoors Land or Bluefish Canada?
Well, I just wanted to say I had the privilege of attending the winter environmental conference at Save the River. They're the river keeper for the Upper St. Lawrence River. I'm on their board of directors. They're in Clayton, New York. So it's not a conflict of interest for me to be with Bluefish Canada and to be part of Save the River. They've been around for 48 years. They were founded after a giant oil spill on the St. Lawrence River when 300,000 gallons of crude oil leaked into the river when a barge busted open.
Jeez.
And it went all the way down from pretty much Thousand Islands to Montreal, and just destroyed so much for so long. So long. Mess. Yeah, it was a mess that went on for years. And anyways, it gave birth to Save the River, this organization, and they have a winter conference every year. So there was a couple things that happened that I thought, we should count our blessings here in Canada. Yeah. First, the keynote guest speaker, after lunch guest speaker, didn't show. And I'm not going to name names, but I was told he was a commissioner for an international commission, between Canada and the United States related to the Great Lakes, that in the last 6 months or so, he had been fired, rehired, and then was going to come and talk to us about Plan 2014, which was the scientific proposal that came out to regulate the level of the St. Lawrence and the Great Lakes so that it would be more fish friendly, so that we wouldn't be drying out the wetlands and the spawning habitat so quickly, and we'd give the chance of the eggs to hatch and so on. And then we had those two big floods right afterwards in 2019. And then a lot of politicians were, put under the gun by property owners, coastal property owners that got flooded, and said it's 2014. That's the problem. It was that stupid plan. So they've been reevaluating it, and he was going to come and talk to us about some of the findings, and then decided at the last minute that he didn't want to get fired again, and that he better keep his mouth shut. Then later on at the end of the conference, we got an update on Blind Bay. It's that giant wetland on the south shore of the St. Lawrence River.
Yeah.
One of the last big giant wetlands where muskie spawn, pike spawn. It's a huge nursery. And the U.S. Coast Guard has plans to go in there and build a giant shipyard for their cruisers, for all their vessels that they're going to put there to patrol the St. Lawrence River and make sure we don't smuggle cigarettes back and forth or people or whatever, and drugs. Wow. And all the people around there said, look, this is an important wetland. Why don't you go somewhere else? Why are you picking this place just because it's empty? And so an organization bought the land from the property owners, and then the government just said, no, whatever. If we want the land, we'll take it. We don't give a crap who owns it. And they continued on with their environmental evaluation. And then some politicians and governors got more and more involved and said, look, everyone thinks this is a bad idea, not just a handful of environmentalists, everyone. And they said, look, here's a spot just down the river, the other side of the bridge, well lit. It's got an empty shopping mall that's been shuttered, a giant parking lot, a big bay. Well, you have parking already, you have storage, why don't you go there? And so normally we get really verbose updates on where we are with this struggle from the team fighting this, saving Blind Bay. And today at the conference, we just heard that the environmental assessment of the other site is ongoing. So I asked the organizers afterwards, I said, why such a tentative, update? She said, Lawrence, it looks like they're going to choose that site. But if we announce that it looks like they're going to choose that site, they might get upset with us claiming a win by an environmental group, claiming a win over government. And by doing that, they'll just go back to their first choice, just so that we don't get a win.
Wow. That's kind of petty. Right?
That's how people are thinking down there now.
Wow.
Shut your mouth. Say nothing.
And there is a time when, we need to use these a lot more than we do this. And that's why we have two of those. And anyway, we've talked about that at great length. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's so interesting. I'm wow. We're that petty. That's where we're at, eh? Wow. Well,
we can talk. No one's telling anyone to shut their mouth up in Canada. And we should thank our lucky stars. We can have 7 anglers, industry leaders in Western Canada come to Ottawa, talk to anyone and everyone, and get 4 days of meetings booked with members of parliament, with committees, with councils, open houses, and senior bureaucrats, and anyone who is interested. So people are talking, and you can see that on social media. People are talking, and you don't see government, heavy hands from government. They're listening, they're watching.
True enough.
But they're not slapping people down.
No, and that's good. Hopefully, it doesn't escalate into that. As always, Lawrence, our time absolutely flies. Very interesting discussion in regards to what went on at that town hall meeting, and I'm sure there's lots more to come out of it. Plus, not to mention, obviously, there's going to be something that's tabled, a paper of some sort, which will have basically the outline of what it's going to look like going forward when it comes to the BC and West Coast fisheries. So, looking forward to all and everything in relation to that, because it's going to be on the mind of everyone, and it should be, because it is our fishing. It's our recreational, traditional livelihoods, whatever you want to call it, that are under attack, and we have to push back. Yeah,
we have to make our views known. And the more people that call in, email in. Emails are great, calls are great. Anyone who has a view on that, share it.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, brother, you have yourself a great night and a great rest of the week, and we will look forward to seeing and hearing from you again next Monday, my friend.
Sounds good, buddy.
Right on, Lawrence. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We've got Jay Barnucz coming up right after a word from his sponsor. Have a great night, Lawrence.
You too.
The fear of failure is failure itself. The world of science rewards the ones who are willing to try and fail. Because without the courage to embrace failure, ideas remain ideas. But with that courage to fail and to learn, ideas can change the world.
So we got tons to talk about, lots to discuss, lots going on in the fishing community. But first and foremost, Jay, thanks so much for joining us tonight. How you doing tonight?
Good, buddy. How you doing, Scotty?
Living the dream, pal. Living the dream as always. So I don't know where you want to start, but obviously, you know, with ice fishing conditions as they are out here, we are basically plumb right dead center in the dog days of hard water season. We are certainly starting to see a lot more fisheries open up, a lot more opportunities open up for folks. And with the weather staying somewhat, you know, steady, somewhat normal, I don't think we're going to see much more of this throughout the rest of the winter until it's about spring. And what's your take based on what you're seeing right now with the weather and all the patterns that are coming through? What do you see as the longevity of our hard water season, as well as what to expect when it comes to the actual fish themselves?
Well, Scotty, I think that we're looking at probably a good, even here in the South, a good month of ice fishing coming up.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's good. It took some time to get there, but even down here on the Inner Bay of Long Point, which I find in all the major ice fishing spots in Southern Ontario, you know, like Inner Bay of Long Point and Rondeau Bay, and maybe even down Lake St. Clair, these are the areas that usually are the last to freeze, first to thaw. And they're probably the most unpredictable ice in the province, to be honest, because we just don't get a lot of heavy ice cover. And right now, we got lots of ice, man. So, and looking at the long range forecast, you know, there's nothing close to zero for the next 2 weeks, really. So, like, I think today we got up to about -4 today, but we're going to get back down to minus double digits for the next week or so. So yeah, I think for ice anglers out there from Ontario top to bottom, we're in good shape for a while. And I think what's nice too, Scotty, is, boy, we had some really crazy weather for a couple of weeks with lots of, let's be honest, travel was not easy for anglers. I think we've gotten through a lot of those multiple snowstorms and not just like the clippers coming through, but all the lake effect snow. This cold weather has frozen up the lakes for the most part. Lake Huron's almost locked up tight. It's about 70% ice coverage. Lake Erie's at about 90% or more. So that lake effect snow is not going to hinder driving as much, so we can get around easier. So yeah, I think we're in a good place. If you want to make the most of winter and get out ice fishing, this is the time now. All the operators are all running full bore. If you want to book a spot, you better book it fast because everyone's booking up. So yeah, we're in a good spot, man. It's smooth sailing for the next few weeks, I'm guessing.
Now, I do believe you have a destination set aside for this weekend, because I do believe you had a choice to make when it came to the show season, and you picked this weekend to take off. Where are you headed? I'm interested.
Yeah, you know, I don't know yet. So it's the first time in probably 10 years I won't be at the spring fishing show. Pure Fishing called me and they said they actually asked if Trevor and I would rather do CanCast. They want some good representation at CanCast this year, but they it's not in their budget to have us at both shows. And just so folks know, like, we do get credit for our time, which helps fuel our passion for angling. And I'm happy to give that time to other members of our pro staff team who want it, because I'm looking forward to going ice fishing this weekend. No offense to the show. It's going to be a great show. I'm going to miss seeing some of those faces. But, one selfish drawback to trade show season is it cuts into my ice fishing time. I can remember, trying to ice fish as much as possible through the month of January, because once the boat show was done, you'd have the spring fishing show, the London boat show, and then there was always lots of in-store sales going on. And so my weekends would be booked with all kinds of trips to, shops and places. Now I'm going to go ice fishing. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go this weekend yet. We went out on Sunday, Scotty, and we went out of Port Rowan on Sunday, and it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. We walked out. Now, it was our first time out this year on the Inner Bay, so we didn't go super early. We got down there. If I haven't been out to check the ice personally, I don't like going there in the dark. We've talked about this. I want there. So we got there for sunrise, and we went out, Trevor and his buddy Aiden and I. We went out about 1 kilometer, checked ice as we went. Dude, there was a ton of ice. Now it's about 10 plus inches of ice. Now I want to say the top 4 inches was pretty white. Like, it didn't look great, but that bottom 6 inches was good black ice. And everywhere we went, there was lots of ice. So that made us feel good. We didn't get on to a lot of fish. We probably caught about 20 perch for the day, and we kept 10, which isn't great. And I was thinking, that kind of sucks. Usually we do better. Now, we also put a lot of time in with pike. We set our tip ups. No pike showed up. I didn't feel too bad, though, at the end of the day, because I talked to a lot of my buddies who fished out of – so the Inner Bay of Long Point's like a big circle. Mm-hmm. So we were at Port Rowan. I had friends at St. Williams, and I had other friends that fished over at the Old Cut off Long Point itself. And some folks were catching fish, but for the most part, I heard the weekend was pretty slow. And so I was talking with Mark Penner today from Grimsby Tackle. Shout out to Mark. And his buddy Shane was down at Jimmy Reagan's on Saturday, and they run a great outfit. And they didn't catch a ton of fish. Jimmy moved them once or twice during the day, and they kind of got on some fish later in the day. I don't know what. I think that with all these up and down weather swings we've been having, I think we haven't had stable weather for a while. And I'm hoping that now we'll get some stable weather. And it was crazy full moon this weekend too, H.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm not making up excuses, but we've had some crazy weather. I think where we were, one thing, and this is part of fishing, right? If you didn't catch them, why didn't you catch them? And I don't think it's so much of a where we're using the wrong thing. I believe what happened is the Inner Bay itself. Now it's very shallow. Folks that don't know, the Inner Bay of Long Point average depth is anywhere from like 4 to 6 feet, maybe 7 feet. You have to go out really far to get deeper than 7 feet of water this time of year. And for the most part, you don't want to go out that far, because now you start getting towards the main lake, and then you run into ice quality out there, right? And water clarity is so important. The Inner Bay of Long Point is a very clear water body. It's as clear as lakes up north. And for the most part, the water was kind of dirty this weekend. And I think that with some of the wind we've had, now anglers may not know this, but when you get wind, even under the ice, it'll push some of that dirty water around. Now, it's not muddy. It's all relative, right, Scotty? So how should I say this? We were in 6 feet of water. We could only see down about 4 feet. I think the fish have always liked it when you could see like where it's gin clear all the way down. And I think that what we should have done is we should have moved more to try and find cleaner water. But I will give an excuse. Dude, it was minus 25 on Sunday morning.
Yep.
It doesn't play into my run and gun game very much when it's minus 25. Now, it did warm up to about minus 12 after lunch. And so I did spend 2 hours punching holes. So the sun came out. We had our main shack set up. I grabbed one of our sleds and my flasher and an auger and a rod and some bait. And I walked around for an hour and a half, drilling holes, punching holes, and fishing. and not much. I don't even think I marked a fish in an hour and a half walking around checking spots.
Wow.
That's how it went, man. So I have no problem admitting it was a bit of a tough day, but it's not a total bust. We learned a lot. We covered a lot of water, and we're going to come up with a plan for this weekend. So I think I want to go back to the Inner Bay this weekend. I do have an invite for a unique opportunity that I might try on Sunday as well. So it kind of depends on schedules around here that I'll share that later, probably next week. But it's something I've never done before I shouldn't say never done, but an area I haven't fished before in Southern Ontario, ice fished. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. And it's in, I'll give you a hint, it's in the Niagara region. And so I want to go check that out.
Cool.
So yeah. So it's cool just being able to, when you have this much ice and this much stability, being able to make plans and get out. Everyone's been out ice fishing, dude. I've seen all the pictures on folks are out on Simcoe. I know guys are out poking around Hamilton Harbor right now, which is amazing. That rarely happens. I don't know about you. I've heard compared to other years, the Quinte walleye bite's been a little slow this year. What have you heard about that?
Same. Yeah. There was a couple days where you could tell folks were on them and they were hitting. It has a lot to do with where you go. I know to coin a phrase or a cliche.
Yeah.
Because there's some folks that are doing well and some folks that aren't. Quite a few folks that aren't.
Yeah.
It's a tough bite.
This is what I've been hearing, and a couple of anglers reached out to me, and they asked me if it was because of the gizzard shad. Now I know we talked about gizzard shad last week, and how we came across gizzard shad, but I wonder if some of the thoughts is that the gizzard shad, there's too many gizzard shad around, and there's almost too much bait for the gizzard shad, for the walleye. They're eating the gizzard shad. And I don't know if that really holds true, but I've heard that story from a couple different anglers who don't know each other. Like, it's two different anglers that I trust. And I'm like, I wonder if there's something to that where the bay itself is just kind of in a transition year. We've had two very relatively warm winters. And so the gizzard shad population is probably pretty high right now. Now, gizzard shad is a native species, not like alewife, which is not native. But gizzard shad populations are controlled by winter. The colder the winter, the more die-offs you're going to get of gizzard shad. And I wonder if that holds true. I don't know for sure, but it's possible, man. It's possible. So,
well, we are going to find out for sure. Speaking of ice fishing, I did want to mention this because, I know we've touched on it before. You and I have discussed water clarity and quality has a lot to do with the presence of freshwater shrimp. But I can't say that I've ever come across a situation like this. And I'm hoping that you can provide a little bit of clarity because to me, this just seems way too simple and almost a little bit unbelievable.
Everybody. Step number 1 to catch and perch. So you gotta go drill a couple holes and catch the perch food. Bunch of shrimps. Just drill holes randomly near shore and weed beds and they'll pop up.
Is it that simple?
I don't know if it's that simple, but I do think though that I'm gonna try and find a picture here. So I do think that if anyone who fishes Lake Simcoe, and if you're not seeing these little amphipods, I'm going to try and share a picture here if I can. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to jump back to you for a sec. Let's see. Where is it? Here we go. All right. I'm going to try and show this. So this is an amphipod. Okay. This is, and you'll hear anglers talk about scuds as well. Mm-hmm. So that's what that angler is showing in that video. It's an amphipod or a scud. And on Lake Simcoe, you'll see lots of these. And if the perch are actively feeding, like their mouths will be full of these scuds, amphipods. And that is what that gentleman there. Now what he's done is he's drilled into shallow water with the macrophytes, and probably on his auger blade when he brings it out, he's pulling up the weeds, and the amphipods are scattering on the ice. And it is good to, like, I think it's always good to find areas where it's hard to find amphipods, but if you can find perch, if you're catching perch with amphipods in their mouth, don't move. Stay in that area. Those fish are feeding on those amphipods, especially if you have vegetation in that area. So that's a very, very common thing to do. The other one I was going to try and show you, if I can, I'm going to stop sharing. The other one I wanted to show you, Scotty, is, and people don't, we were talking about this before the show, is, where is it now? This here. So down here in the southwest, in Lake Erie, there's a genus of shrimp called Paleomontes. I think it's Paleomontes. And you'll hear it called a glass shrimp or a ghost shrimp. And now, these aren't very common outside of Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair, but if you fish any shallow waters around Lake Erie and Lake St. Clair, and these are about an inch to inch and a half long, like they're pretty big. Versus, I know Jim was talking about mysid shrimp, which are typically like a deep lake crustacean, like in Lake Ontario, Lake Huron, even some of the bigger inland lakes. But these glass shrimp or ghost shrimp are common in shallow waters along Lake St. Clair and Lake Erie, and these are major food for, so amphipods are probably like, we're talking a lot of the ones on Simcoe are like 1/4 of an inch or maybe 1/8 of an inch in size.
Yeah,
these guys can get to be about 1 inch long. They're pretty cool. And so, when we talk about presentation, there's so many little baits out there that can mimic these things. And I know that Berkeley has a whole line of microplastics that mimic these really well, not the shrimp and the amphipods. And it's hard to put these on a hook if that's what you wanted to do, even the amphipods. But just being around fish that are feeding actively on these things, I think can really help you out. So it's important when you're catching some fish like perch or any kind of panfish, look in their mouth to see if they're feeding. If they're feeding on amphipods or shrimp, you'll see them in their mouth.
Interesting. Really, as always, fascinating. George would suggest too, based on what he sees from the size of those amphipods, that he would suggest that it would be in a pond dwelling. Like it would be more of an untouched pond situation.
Yeah, those are big amphipods. Like that, they to actually, you could physically see them in the video. Like a lot of the amphipods that I see, that yellow perch are, and I keep bringing up yellow perch because that's one of the fish that I see feeding regularly on amphipods, and Simcoe is full of them. They're tiny amphipods. Like it's hard to mimic them with a presentation because they're so small. But yeah, those ones that he had in that presentation are huge. It is good though if you do fish in areas with weeds or with macrophytes. Sometimes I like to throw down a bigger lure with treble hooks and hook some of that weed, and then pull it up in the water column, and I'll check it for amphipods. And then sometimes in the holes where I'm fishing, I will purposely like rip the weeds up off the bottom a little bit to stir up the water column where I am. I find that on Lake Erie, where it's so shallow, sometimes on a deeper lake like Simcoe, when you're fishing, you can bring the fish into you, right? They might cruise through. But in Lake Erie, their field of view is so narrow because you're only you got 4 or 5 feet of water. So sometimes I like to stir up the bottom to bring those fish into where I am, especially if they're actively feeding on amphipods. So like I will take, usually when I'm perch fishing, I'll bring a rod with a rattle bait for pike, Scotty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll take that rattle bait and I'll throw it to the bottom. And if I can see weed on the bottom, and I'll rip some of that weed up with that big rattle bait on purpose to try and stir things up to get some of that bait moving. So
Makes sense. So George is saying those are springtails.
Springtails, yeah, a type of amphipod.
Sure they are. You guys are amazing, man. I'm telling you, just a wealth of freaking information. Richard's mentioning that he sees a lot of black bugs when he's on the ice. What are some of the? I mean, with that, that statement there from Richard, is there a lot that we can be looking for that goes unnoticed that we're just?
Yeah. There's all kinds of. So you get these sunny days. Now this isn't really an ice fishing thing for me that I've noticed, but like when you're winter steelheading, there's certain species of stoneflies that will crawl up onto the ice. I think there's another one that they call them fleas, but they're small black midges that will come up on the ice. So you'll see these happening on sunny days. And I think that's why sometimes in that clearer water, when if I'm looking for clear water under the ice, I think that it's easier for fish that are visual, like yellow perch are visual feeders, so they can find their prey easier. Not just my bait, but they can actually find their prey, the different inverts that they're feeding on when the water's clear. So I think that's why clear water is important. But pay attention to what's happening. If there's a lot of invertebrates hatching or emerging on the ice around you, that's a good sign to stay in that area.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Wow. Well, definitely a wealth of information as always. I wanted to tweak your interest in regards to this because I asked Jim, and I'm going to ask you. This was the video that I shared, and it was interesting because, for one, we're not able to do that here in our province or country when it comes to aquariums. But I always find it fascinating to see what these fish in these kind of conditions will eat. Will they feed? And of course, we always say when they're pressured, you try to downsize your bait. Well, they're rubbing shoulders with one another in an aquarium setting. I don't know how long it's been since they've had their last meal, but that is an awfully big minnow that sauger just consumed. Yeah. And I think what we need to understand, especially when we see stuff like that, because we're always concerned we're throwing something too big. But we also is equally concerned that if they are pressured fish, we want to downsize our bait. Why do we do that? Why do we downsize our bait? What's the theory behind that?
You know what? So when I'm ice fishing, because we're allowed 2 rods, I usually fish with 2 different sizes of bait on purpose. So even on the weekend, I was fishing with a large rattle bait, a Berkeley Jack, and I was trying to rip it to call in pike, but it will also call in perch. Like a big rattle bait will call the perch in to your area. And then I had a slab grabber in the second hole if the perch came in, right? I caught a few tiny perch on that big rattle bait, like didn't snag them. Like they grabbed that bottom hook. Came up hooking to the point where the rod was so stiff. I'm using a medium heavy 36-inch Fenwick with 10-pound fire line. This is like what I'd throw for Quinny walleye, right, Scotty? And I'm ripping that little rattle bait, and then all of a sudden it just felt weird. I lift it up, and I'm in 4 feet of water, right? So all I have to do is just literally lift the rod up, and out comes literally a 6-inch or a 4-inch perch on that rattle bait. And it happened a couple times. So I think you have to, don't be scared to throw different sizes of baits. You don't always have to finesse them. And I think that for some fish, you need to draw them in when you're ice fishing. The trouble with ice fishing is that we are not mobile. As much as we try to be mobile, we are not. We just can't turn the boat and go over here and go over there. Yeah. We have to somehow bring the fish to us sometimes. Very rarely are we putting ourselves right on top of those fish. And so we have to bring them to us, and then keep them in the area. And sometimes using a big bait works great for that. And sometimes the big bait just works best for catching them too. And that's just how it goes. I think though with ice fishing, we tend to focus too much on the finesse, and we should be focusing more on what works.
Makes sense. It's great advice. Trevor's just chiming in here in
Yeah.
terms of the size of rattle baits that you were using. And yeah, I mean, I will say rattle bait is something that I truly like using. Not my first drop, but after I've dropped something that is sort of a confidence bait and
Yeah.
you know there's fish below you and they haven't eaten anything or even been at all interested, that's when I like to throw the rattle bait, because obviously a subtle presentation isn't working. Let's get them jacked up. Let's get them aggressive.
I agree.
No, that great stuff there. Now, with some of the proposed ice fishing destinations that you have set aside for this weekend, is there a species of fish that you're truly hoping that you end up on the end of your line?
Oh, buddy, I haven't I haven't had a good feed of fish here for a while.
Ooh.
So I I think yellow perch is on the menu. Although I do see that barometer dropping Thursday night this week.
Yes.
And I think there's a clipper coming in Friday, like overnight. So Thursday night into Friday morning. And that just sets up so well for a night crappie bite when those little clippers come in.
Yep.
So yeah, the knife is sharpened and ready. I am going meat hunting this week. That's what I'd like to do. I usually catch photograph release. I will be releasing them into my what do I have up the not a Ziploc bag. What's the machine you suck all the air out of it? What's it called again? You know what I'm talking about.
I know. Oh, it's on the saver, something food saver.
Food saver, yeah.
It's a food saver.
That is the greatest invention for
Yes.
people who like to, and I use it for other stuff too, right? But I love it because especially when I want to put some fish away for like a good fish fry.
Yes.
So I'll build on the supply. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
yeah. So I want to put that food saver to work this weekend, but definitely got some crappie plans, literally crappie plans Thursday night. And then the weekend, we'll see what happens. But I wanted to share something before I forget, because this is something that I talked to. I get a lot of questions about this, and there's this little figure that I like to share with people, and I think you can search this up. So I get asked about this a lot. How much propane do you need? Okay. So, because I know a lot of folks, and I'll zoom in here a bit, like I'm using this buddy heater right here, right? That's a small buddy heater.
Yeah.
In our 450 Eskimo XD, it was minus 25 Saturday morning. In fact, it probably it didn't get up above minus 15 until well after lunch. We kept it on low the entire day. Okay. So if you keep it on low, and I'm using a 5-pound tank, that's 24 hours of burn time in that heater. So I know folks want to know, like, how long does propane last you? And this isn't 100% accurate. You have to assume that everything's burning clean and everything's been maintained. But, we're out there for 8 hours. So if I get 3 8-hour days, that's 24 hours. That's 3 days of fishing out of that 5-pound tank. I do have a 10-pound tank. That's 48 hours. And of course, if I have to, I'll use the 1 pound. But I love these 5-pound tanks for that reason. And then I can plan my fishing around that. I actually own 2 5-pound tanks and a 10-pound tank, because we have a second shelter that if we want to take more people out, we will. Gotcha. And I just think this is a great graph or table for folks to understand how much propane you could burn and how to prepare for that, because you want to pack light, but you also want to be prepared. So I just wanted to share that. And if you search hours of burn time for buddy heaters on Google, you'll get that image. And it's just a great reference to have when you're planning your next fishing trip. So I just wanted to share that with everybody.
It's absolutely awesome. I do want you to weigh in on what we've been seeing and witnessing with some of the elites, some of the bass anglers that are currently down, I believe, in Guntersville right now.
Yeah, they're in Lake Guntersville.
How do you approach that, Jay? I would be anxious enough as it is. I would be so intimidated just being down there amongst those kind of sticks, but then to be presented with a ramp that's frozen,
Yeah.
lake water that's frozen, and pushing out past the marina, and the lake is still where do you go at that stage to start targeting bass?
Okay. Well, so let's see if I'm going to try and dig this up here. So, because I looked at this today. So right now on Lake Guntersville, we are at, where are we at today? So it is, yeah. So tomorrow, which is, tomorrow's going to go, it's going to be a high of 11, a low of 3. Okay. So it's going to warm up a little bit. But then on Wednesday, it's going to be a high of 5 and a low of -7.
Jeez.
And then Thursday, a high of 5, low of -2. And then Friday, it'll be 15, Saturday 12, Sunday 13. So the tournament starts on Thursday. It's going to be 5. And there's a good chance that, boats will be freezing to the ramps. I even heard anglers talking about, like, anglers putting stories up to tell other anglers, like, don't drive your boat up the ramp. Why don't we drive our boat up the ramp, Scotty, when it's cold? It ices the ramp. You got to drain your boat, right?
Yeah.
These are things that these guys don't have to deal with on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The most interesting video I saw, though, and I've heard of this happening. So when you get cold weather like this, there'll be big shad die-offs. Okay? So never mind the ice, the shad die-offs. And it was Mark Menendez who, and I think it was threadfin shad he was showing. And there's so many dead shad in the water column that the bass have countless things to eat, like dead and dying shad. Like he had his video of just on the surface and it's all these like dying shad. And if I'm a bass, why would I chase down a lure when I can just swim around really slowly and just slurp up dying shad? I think anglers are going to have their work cut out for them this weekend. I think it's going to be really tough. It's going to be an interesting event, that's for sure.
I agree. And George is weighing in here as well. I would fish for bass just like we do here in late April and early May. Nico drop shot and deep jerk baits. Yeah, I will they be chasing jerk baits in that colder the water though, Jay?
They won't chase, but you just have to tempt them with it. So you work it as slow and methodical. Now, the thing about it is that there's not shad everywhere in the lake. The shad will be concentrated in the coves where it's warmest. And then I mean, it could be a couple degrees warmer. That's where they'll be. The shad are good at finding that. We know that with what we see with muskies on Lake St. Clair, right? When they come in the Thames River, the Thames is only a couple degrees warmer than the lake, but that's where all the shad are. So the shad will be so concentrated in the coves, in the river mouths and things like that. The main lake is probably going to be pretty void of shad, but there's still fish to be caught in the main lake. Not all the fish will be where the shad are. So it'll be the anglers who can probably get away from the dying shad and find fish that are willing to chase a bait. And I shouldn't say chase. Chase is relative. Even though it's cold, you can still trick them into taking a bait. And a slowly worked jerk bait will work really well for them this time of year. That's probably going to be one of the key baits for a lot of anglers down there in Guntersville is a jerk bait. I'm going to bet this weekend.
Well, there's George that would agree with you. Trevor's suggesting that perhaps the same jerk baits, lipless cranks will also do well. I'd have to agree with that, but definitely based on the video that you just talked about and I saw earlier today, anything with a silver or chrome finish that shimmers in the water and swims erratically, I would have to say is going to be a go-to. If I had my opinion, definitely I'd be pitching some of those because it looks like there's a lot. And
hey, man, if for folks that aren't into ice fishing, if you want to, you can watch Bassmaster Live for 4 days this week. So I am sure that I will be streaming Bassmaster Live from our Eskimo shelter this weekend while I'm ice fishing. I'm sure that will totally happen this weekend. So I'll bring out the iPad and we'll be watching bass fishing. And hey, man, it might be warmer in Alabama this weekend than it is, colder in Alabama this weekend than it is here. We'll see.
It could very well be. Absolutely. Yeah. With that being said, obviously, we want to bid you farewell, and we want to wish you a great week and weekend of fishing. Of course, we want to do our due diligence and make sure that we're helping promote these shows, and of course, allowing our community to get a discount. So if you are interested in pre-purchasing a Spring Fishing and Boat Show ticket, by all means, head over here to this website, use Let's Fish as your promo code, and make sure that you purchase a ticket, and we will see you there. I noticed that you have a link that you just
I'm going to share this in the chat. So this is
yes.
I'm actually going to share this this page while I can. So I'm going to do one more share here. Present. Boy, I'm getting better at this sharing screen stuff. Maybe. Let me move this over here, and then it'll show up better. Window. There we go. Got it. Okay. So I'm not sure if my arm or my shoulders are going to hold up for this. So this is what's called the push-up challenge, and I've heard about this year. And there's a lot of great challenges going on all the time, man. But this one is it's for Canadian mental health, and so I'm dedicating my push-up challenge to this lovely lady right here, our daughter Stephanie.
Nice.
And I actually have a team going. So at work, a bunch of my colleagues are going to join me on this little challenge, and I'm going to try and do 2,000 push-ups over 23 days in the month of February. So I expect there'll be some Instagram and Facebook stories shared of me doing push-ups on the ice, and me doing push-ups in my office, and me doing push-ups. Now I don't have to I can do sit-ups and other activities too, but I'm going to try and do the push-ups. And all the money raised goes to supporting the Canadian Mental Health Association. So I think mental health is getting a lot more awareness, and we've talked about this.
Yeah.
And I think that, I decided to jump in with this challenge this year, and because mental health affects people that are very close to me. And so, I'm going to give it a shot this year. So if anybody wants to sponsor me, you can use this link, or even if you just want to share my link to your Facebook page and send someone over to check it out, that'd be great. And I'm going to give it a shot, and I'll give you guys some updates over the next few weeks about how it's going with all that. So we'll see if I'm not here in a sling by this time next week, then I'm doing okay. We'll see how that goes.
Right on, Jay. Well, listen, you have yourself a great week and weekend. Look forward to seeing some of the fish picks, and hopefully you come back on Monday and you haven't got a broken wing or paw.
Yeah, we're good. I'll be all right. Thanks, right on, everybody.
Dude. All the best, my friend. Give our best to Steph.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll see you later.
All right, that is the end of our show. It's amazing how time flies. 2 hours is gone already. Absolutely incredible. And it truly is, the amount of information that's shared here, engaging topics, I can't thank our panel enough for all that they do. And of course, all that you guys do, because at the end of the day, it's an interactive conversation, and we want you guys to be interactive. We want you to be engaging. We want you to be a part of the conversation, because at the end of the day, it's not us talking at you. It's us talking with you is our approach to all this. So by all means, we love when we see your comments and some of your thoughts that you share in the comments during our discussions. Well, on that note, as I said, if you are heading down to the Spring Fishing Boat Show, I will see you there. I'll be at the POW casting booth with our good buddy Brad, selling a whole whack of his stuff that he'll have available. There'll be also some other Made in Canada vendors down there as well. So come by, say hi. Love to see you. And as I said, let's hope it is yet another productive show. In the meantime, you guys have yourself a great week. Try and stay safe, stay warm, and let's get out fishing on the weekend so that we we can all do our mental health some much needed good. On that note, have yourselves a great week. Love you all. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you next Monday. Dave, it's time to take us away. Cheers.
Well, as much as I hate to admit it, I guess we've run out of time. So I've enjoyed it, but I'm going to do something I haven't done since season 1. Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end.